you had to wear swimming attire or anything. We went in the nude, and it was normal for us. You know, it was normal for us, and how we used to get the water from the creek. And
there was no store down here, right?
There was no store.
So how would you just hunt and fish? And
yeah, we did a lot of fishing. The tribe worked with, I think it was Forest Service or one of the federal entities, and they got the water, the creeks here stocked with fish. So we used to go and fish, catch the fish, and we used to have a cat that used to chase us. When the cat saw us picking up our fishing line, you know, we didn't have fishing rods like the fancy reel them in type. We just made them on our own. My dad even made a hook using wire. Suspended it and molded it like a hook, a fish hook, and we put some fishing line on it. We went fishing with it, and we caught quite a few fish with that hook, homemade hook.
And then what? So you had, well, I guess people brought in some flour and sugar, the basics down here from Flagstaff.
Yes.
And so someone would go out and bring in all that, and everyone would chip in and buy that.
A lot of people saved their corn, you know, for different ways to prepare the corn, and the deer meat came, you know, jerky and piñons and figs, dried figs, apricots. So there was a lot of food that was grown that was dry. So you even if you didn't hunt, you had relatives that had a large garden or something where they could share what they had.
Now, what was the houses like? They weren't the frame houses with the electricity.
Yeah, before the government housing came in, a lot of the people that began to adopt four walls type construction, like modern homes, they started getting whatever they could, like red boxes, cardboard boxes, and patch up homes that way.
Before that, though, was it mostly wickiups?
Before that, or as I was coming up, there was a lot of that, the wickiups, the earth instructors, kind of like the sweat lodge, you know, with earth all around it, and fire pits in the center. That was still here.
Now, how much did you guys know about, as children, how much did you know about what was going on the outside? Occasionally, would you go out maybe once a year and see Phoenix and go, oh, that's a whole nother planet?
No, I didn't see anything about the outside contact. I didn't even know there was white people or black people or Mexicans or any of the other nationalities. We heard about them. We heard that there was the Great Ocean, and that there was people, they call it Hakavia, on the other shore, on the other side. And heard there was all kinds of different people, and they call them Januma, Haikatahan, and they had their own languages, but we never seen them live until, I would say, like 65, 64, as I was getting a little older. I was born in 54. I would say the first contact I had with white people was probably 1958, when I was tied to a boulder sitting by the trail, and people would go by, the first hikers that came in, and it wasn't like 100, 200, 300 people a month or anything like that. It was just rare that people came through in a month. Maybe up to 8 people in 1 year in those days.
That was it.
That was it until Geographic came in, National Geographic came in, Arizona Highways came in, the Postal Service came in, and then it was like the prophecy said that we were hidden from the public eye for a long time. Even Indian tribes that lived in Arizona didn't know there was an Indian tribe living in the Grand Canyon and still living off the land.
And your prophecy said that you were intentionally hidden away.
Yes.
And for what purpose? Did the prophecy say for what purpose?
Because the prophecy said that these resources, the water, the environment would be degraded, devastated, contaminated, and polluted for one's gain. Whoever that one person was had a lot of power, had a lot of money. And that isn't the way it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work in a way where the gain goes to everyone, to children, elders, with respect to the past, the present, and the future. But that isn't the goals that I see projected by the businesses that are on the plateau today. They use and abuse left and right. They don't care what happens to the cultures that were here and what is sacred to those cultures that were here first. I would say that the changes that I've seen in those days compared to the 60s as I was coming up, I saw that the influence from outside was beginning to come in, and it was important to learn who these people were and to learn to use the tools that they had. I think that's when the houses first came in. But when the houses first came in, the people that brought these proposals of new homes and better houses and luxury and everything did not tell the people back then that they would face solid waste issues, leaks in the homes, how do you repair the plumbing problems, electrical appliances going out, and they didn't tell us that we were going to have these problems.
And before that, you didn't have any of the problems. You didn't.
Right.
If you just had to keep a wiki up going and get enough food to eat.
Yes. And those things didn't require too much maintenance. It was you were living with nature and in nature, and living according to the things that you saw, like the wind, the animals behaving certain ways, or like my daughter just yesterday. They're young, and the knowledge they're gaining from others as well. And when we hear a ringing noise in your ear, it means there's a spirit that either went through you. And our level, our perception, or our understanding of what is sacred goes to that level, and it involves everyday beliefs. Like my daughter had this experience yesterday of ringing in her ear, and she said, "Dad, what does it mean when we get ringing in our ear?" And my other daughter, the younger one, said, "Oh, I know. It's if a spirit goes by you or something like that, huh?" And I said, yeah. When a spirit goes through you, whether it's a good spirit or evil spirit, but these spirits go through things. They move all the time, and it's to that level that our children are taught. It's something invisible, but you hear it. And only one individual can hear that connection. And that's the way it is with the practitioner, the shaman. It ain't like, because a shaman sees a revelation, the whole tribe heard it or felt it. Sometimes I think that what is sacred to the government is usually a burial site, pipe, medicine man's gorge, but that isn't where it ends. It goes beyond that, and that's what we're trying to convey in the courts. We're trying to convey that without really releasing too much of the information, but we are beginning to release some of that. Like my daughter had that experience yesterday, and she knew, because we're teaching them that when you hear that, it's a spirit. And it's something that not the everyday person knows in society. We live close to the environment that we feel so related to these things. They're a part of us. And that's one thing that's missing with the people going 2 blocks for an apple or an orange or some corn. They never sow the seed and watch it grow through the months and nurture it. and begin to develop respect, all they do is run around the block and get whatever they need. And that's the way it's always been for them.
And the kind of energy you're talking about, the kind of sacredness and
Right.
spirituality exists at a level that the white man can only relate to in materialism, a gourd,
Right.
you know, an altar. He's got a burial site. He can only relate to it as a physical object because the spiritual part of it is lost on him.
That is true. And yet, the Native American people, or indigenous people, I would say, have so much respect that in spite of all the rivalries and the different things, the different culture, the different ways warriors were developed, or the puberty rites, or the peyote meetings, and all the sweat unipi ceremonies, the sweat lodging, and all this, if one was to travel east to a tribe that he never affiliated with or never knew them, but if he saw that they were holding a ceremony and they were having respect for whatever the ceremony was about, this one person would also recognize that in a respectful way. And that's what indigenous people do worldwide. If we went to Europe and we came to a village, or I don't know what they called them in Europe, they probably called them a different term for a village or a little city or a town.
If you went to an indigenous culture,
Right.
and saw their ceremonies,
Right, and we would honor that. If they said that this feature, a little hill or what, a big pillar or whatever, was sacred to their people, we would make offerings there and recognize that it's all a part of this Mother Earth. It's all one. This wind that we see that blows against the leaves, they're breathing it. The water's a part of us. We're all connected. And that air, that breath of life, the wind, it travels around the world to all these different creatures that we didn't see or say, there goes my breath of air. I don't want you to breathing it or anything. We can't say that. You know, the wind goes to everyone. Creator is fair and equal to all of us. And that's the way the wind and the water that's flowing by. Sometimes I hear people say, oh man, it just keeps flowing. I want to turn it off and stop it. For what? This is nature at its best. The only people that I see damming it up are the ones that want to profit every drop or gain or power. But it shouldn't be that way. Creator gave it to all of us, even the fish, plant people, people that fly, for all of us to enjoy.
when you say people that fly, I've heard that at times people living here had many powers that you wouldn't see outside this canyon.
Yes.
That in back in your history and even presently.
Yes, there is a lot of power.
And don't say anything you don't want to, or if you later if you want to pull it out before I put it in print.
Yes, the spirits, the shamanism, the medicine man, the singers, the drum keepers, the pipe carriers, the sweat lodge, the fireman, all these different roles that these people had were at, I would say, level 1. And then there's another level that is much higher than the one that has knowledge of the medicine. Oh, this one's for venereal disease, this one's for diarrhea, or this one's for diabetes, or this one's for soreness or strap throat, or the knowledge that is here is at a lower level, and that's kind of like the medicine man level. And then it goes to a different level where these practitioners have connection with the patterns of the climate, the nature, the wind, how to bring floods or tornadoes, and then there's another level.
So at that level, they're actually learning to control the forces of nature.
Forces.
They can split the clouds. They can bring the rain.
Yes. And then it goes to another level where it breaks open another barrier where you can communicate with the spirit world. And that's when you can't attain that level until you've mastered these other levels and that you've proven that you can take care of this knowledge and not abuse that knowledge for one's gain.
So when they can see that you learned how to manifest on the physical planet, how to control the forces of nature, but that you're not going to use that for selfishness or for attack, then the ancestors and the other spiritual beings, ascended masters, whatever, then say, introduce themselves and work more directly with that person. Now, is that still going on in the tribe now?
That experience people are having, especially the people that are descendants of the shaman practitioners, the medicine people, the singers, the chiefs, a lot of the individuals that came from those spirits, the spirit that they had is still here. It didn't leave, because the individual that was the powerful shaman that he was, his spirit came down and is still here.
And it's now starting to manifest through his direct relatives?
His relatives. One that is in each family, one that is going to be responsible, that has learned maturity, that is committed and dedicated to take this responsibility and live up to those, how would I say it?
The covenant.
The charge that they have now, the power that they have, has to be protected as well. For me, I've seen some of the revelations come to me personally in 1984, not 84, 1980, 91 was the year where the sacred red butte glowed like amber. That was an experience that I had that people would probably say, oh, you're crazy, things like that don't happen.
So the sacred red butte's on top?
Right.
And it was glowing?
It was glowing like amber. And this was like at 4 a.m. in the morning as I was singing the Dawn Boy song. And that song was sung there by our grandma, who lives forever now. And Paume, who lives forever now, that was sung, this song was sung there at Red Butte. And it's called the Dawn Boy song. I sung that, and right after I finished singing it, that's when that butte glowed. And my wife was in the porta potty, and I was telling her, get out, you gotta see this. And she was trying to hurry the best she could, but she didn't see it. So I prayed that I needed the Creator to show my wife that there was a connection with me and him, and that there was a goal, or I was predestined to do certain things in my lifetime, and I wanted the Creator to prove that to her. I know I'm not supposed to play with that power that way, but the Creator approved that for me. Only with His permission, it happened. One day we were over on the wall over here below the frog. We live over by the frog over here. And me, my daughter, and my wife went over to gather some wood kindling for the fire. You know, each morning we get the fire going, and then I do my offerings on top of the stove. We went to get some wood, fire starter, and there was adrenaline flowing through my body, and it was so powerful. I knew that there was something going to happen that day, and I knew there was no doubt that what was going to happen that day was going to happen. And we went over there, me, my wife, and my oldest daughter, and we started to gather wood. But I stood there and I looked over here, from over there to this ridge over here, and there was a hawk, we call it squalla, flying around. And I knew that had to have something to do with what was going to happen that day. I kept looking over at that hawk, and my wife was still picking up wood, and she kind of noticed me and said, what's wrong? I said, do you see that hawk over there? And she said, yeah. I said, I'm going to make that hawk come over above me, 50 feet above me. It's going to circle 4 times, and I'm going to talk to that hawk. My wife went, are you all right? Are you okay? Type look. But that didn't even faze me, because the adrenaline that was flowing in my nerves and veins and stuff was so strong that I knew I'm going to prove something to you today. And I don't care if you criticize or think something about me. You might think I'm crazy. What's wrong? Are you okay? But that didn't mean nothing. There was nobody on this planet that could have told me that, you don't know what you're talking about. There was no one. I knew it was going to happen. So I lifted up my arms like this, and my adrenaline just was flowing, and it was like a vacuum. And I stood there like this, and that hawk darted over from over here, almost a quarter mile away, and flew and came right above me like I said it would. My wife saw that, and she said, whoa, oh. And my daughter was getting so excited. She, look, look, look. And I wasn't listening to them. I was hearing them, but my concentration had to remain focused on what I was doing.